Yes.
Wouldn't one understand a wish as being an attempt to make a connection between the past, the present and the future? A wish is a connection, making a connection between the present and the future.
You want to make a connection between the present and the future.
That's when
Now,
one
can I ask you,
wishes.
what is the connection between this and our discussion?
The connection is that it's you're suggesting that we're looking at contradictions when in fact we might look at what we might be doing here is finding relationships between two concepts, the present and the future.
No, the present and future. We're talking about I'm here and I'm not here at the same time.
I was dealing with the initial idea.
Which one?
The one of the wish and being in two places at the same time. I presume to do with the present and the future.
Look, I tell you, if I was to do one thing, when I'm lost, I ask the person, can you make one sentence to show us what you want to prove? Do one sentence and say, that's what I want to prove. Go ahead.
That it's not contradictory to consider the present and the future at the same time.
Oh, it's not contradictory.
It's not a contradiction.
Now let me tell you, for common reason, is it rather contradictory or not contradictory?
It's not necessarily contradictory.
You see what you have? Who has seen the trick she's pulling now? Who has seen it? Raise your hand who has seen it. Raise your hand and say, oh, you didn't see it. What's the trick she just pulled?
The word necessarily.
The word necessarily. Now, that's very interesting. What does it change? To add, and that's a very classical one. They do it in Norway, they add necessarily.
Yes.
Yes. What is the purpose of adding necessarily there? What does it do as manipulation?
It gives you a way back to a way out.
Can you explain how?
It allows for exceptions.
It allows for exception. Exactly.
Yeah.
But when I'm asking you the question, I'm asking you for the generality or the exception?
The generality.
Generality.
Yes.
And the person, by saying that, they come in with the exception.
Yes.
Now, when is a generality? Does that allow exception?
Pardon?
When there's a generality, are exceptions allowed?
Yes.
Yes. So, in other words, I'm not denying exception. I'm just saying what is it in general.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, there's something very important you should be conscious of in this thing. It's what language called the ontological degrees. Impossible, possible, probable, necessary. You see, a generality is a probability. It's not impossible. It's not possible because it's more than possible. It's probable. But it is not necessary. If it's necessary, it becomes the absolute. So, the absolute, if you find an exception, there is a contradiction. If I tell you all human beings have 2 legs and 2 arms, and you find me one person that does not, that's it, finished. But if I say, in general, people have 2 legs and 2 arms, you can bring me even a whole dozen of one-legged and 1-armed people, big deal. Now, if you bring me 5 billion, then I have a problem. But 5 or 6 billion. And know what people do, it's very funny, but with this not necessarily. What they're doing, the trick is unconscious, but they say, they take your statement as an absolute, they bring you an exception, and they say, that's it, see, your thing doesn't work. Not at all. My thing's a generality. I'm not talking about an absolute. In my question, did I ask you, is it ever possible? No. I said, when people hear this, will they rather hear a contradiction, not hear a contradiction?
Probability.
I'm not saying, is it always a contradiction? If I say, is it always a contradiction, find the one way that it's not, and I'm finished. You see? And that distinction between general and absolute is fundamental. Just like as general and possible. The possible is what merely is possible. You know? For example, is it possible that men have only 1 arm and 1 leg? Of course. And one guy in Shanghai is like that. That's it. It's possible. Just the one guy in Shanghai. Is it possible a cow has 2 heads? Yes. I've seen one in the circus. It's 2 heads. So it's possible. Yes? But if I ask you, do cows have in general two heads? No. And if I ask you, is it necessary that cows have one head? Neither, because I've seen one with two heads. Just one in the circus, when a child, something like that, right? So, and impossible is that, of course, what is rational. So, yes, and in your question and answer, be very cautious of that. Impossible, possible, what Kant's called the problematic, merely possible. Cow with two heads, possible, I've seen one, Probable, and necessary. A square is necessarily has 4 sides. If it doesn't have 4 sides, it is not a square. In German we say that mathematics has a lot to do with necessity. Yes. But probable is most likely, but it can be exception. It's general. And possible, it's only maybe happens once in 5 billion, but it's sufficient. Yes.
Do you think there's a wish that is not located in both, does not connect the present with the future?
Okay, I can ask you, let's do the same thing.
Does wishing generally connect the present with the future?
Well, suppose you teach grammar to children, okay, suppose. Are you going to teach them that the present, that the past and the future is the same thing or distinct? What do you think is more useful? Distinct. Simple. Alright? No, wait, just, that's all. And in general, is it useful to think that the past and the future are two different things? It's rather useful.
Yep.
Okay. And then generally, when you talk to people, human beings, do they tend to think that the past and the future is not the same thing?
Yep.
Good, so what do you want?
To understand what wishing is.
What?
To understand, if we were to try and
Yes.
understand what wishing was.
You want to understand what wishing was. Let me ask you, Janet, is wishing something important for Janet?
I understand everybody here does the wishing in the future.
Good. So, I'm asking if it's important. Janet, you tell me it's important for everybody.
Sorry?
Are you telling me it's important for everybody? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah,
I'm asking, is wishing important for Janet?
Yeah, and everybody. Human beings, we all wish.
Okay. Do you see this? You ask a child, did you steal? Everybody does that. You know that argument? What is that all about? You don't know.
Belonging?
He wants to belong. So if he steals and everybody steals, he belongs. Like, we're all a bunch of robbers, I'm part of it, yes? Who has a different analysis of this? Everybody does it. The argument. Who has a different? What do you think? Huh? Yeah, somebody didn't speak. Yes, please.
He doesn't want to take the responsibility?
Doesn't want to take responsibility. Indeed, if everybody steals, can you accuse him of stealing or no? It's normal. Yes, no?
Wouldn't accuse.
If everybody does something, can you tell the poor child it's bad to do it if everybody does it?
Yeah.
Well, that means you do it too. You're his mother. It means you do it too. If the child said, well, you do it too, Daddy does it too, everybody, the neighbors, the teacher, then can you say it's wrong if everybody does it? Or is there a problem?
There's a problem.
All right. So that's her thesis. Right? Yes. Taking away the responsibility. Now, so when you say, is wishing important for Janet? And Janet says, it's important for everyone. Is Janet shirking away the responsibility of wishing? Or no? Yes, like the child. Did you steal? Everybody does it. Right? Shirking responsibility or no?
Okay.
And if Janet is wishing important for you, everybody does it. Shirking responsibility?
Yes.
That's all. That's my point. But it's to self, And then, when I'm with someone, and suddenly I see wishing becomes so important, I ask him that. And if he tells me that's the case with everybody, he tells me two things about himself. He tells me that's for him, that's a crucial part of the vision of the world. And second, he doesn't want to take responsibility for his wishing. That's normal. Everybody does it. And I've learned something a lot about his own thinking. For him, he only answered my question. Me, as decoding, tells me a lot about his world vision. Does it make sense or not? Make sense? Does it make sense? Yeah. Yeah, we see it. For whom this makes sense? Raise your hand. Okay, yeah, huh? Yes. Yes. It's a resistance. The key is why suddenly, at a simple question, we use all these tricks. And you'll see it's always the same tricks. You've seen them, you've seen in a certain way. You've seen it 100 times. Use, right? And the everybody does it is one of the great classics. And we say, oh, there's something there. Yes? Because when a child tells me everybody does it, that tells me a lot about his world vision. And about his sense of responsibility. It tells me both. Yeah.
Question.
I'm sorry. And why did I do this, by the way? I didn't finish. Because you want to question me about the wishing. But I said, what's going on here? Yeah? Why is Janet insisting too much about the wishing? So that's why I checked. I said, simply, is wishing important for you? If Janet would say simply, yes, it's important for me, then it would be a big movie. You say, okay, no big deal. But when the person says, oh, but it's the case for everybody, then that's not the same kind of thing. That means there's an issue there. You see? For me, it's very different. Somebody says, yes, I stole. And the person says, everybody steals. Both admit, but the way they admit it makes a whole difference in the world. Well, that's what I mean. Be very acute, to the way things are said. You put your hands there, yeah? And you, what's the one? Very subtle, but I go in here. Yes? The principle of sufficient reason. Even hey, this is beautiful. I won't go into it, but why was it? Do you want to marry me? By the way, for the fun, in Australia, right? Remember, I picked up. There's a lot of that. You do a lot in Australia. It's funny, First time I heard it, that's how you remember it. That's how the kids doing it. That's how the adults doing it. Yes, it's the how do we call this? The whistle concept in Australia. Whistle concept. Yes, you guys are know how to